Why do folks outside the US keep asking if it is really that bad? I see a lot of posts on this here. Yes, work is bad in the US and people are mistreated all the time. You can read about it from reputable journals, not just Reddit anecdotes. Congratulations. Your country offers vacation and decent salaries and treats people like human beings and whatnot. Yes, we would like that too. Do a little research before being dismissive. Edit. To those asking why not strike. Do you not notice all the strikes happening here? Amazing it is happening at all with the anti-union garbage. A lot of people don't strike because there is little to no social safety net in the US. So striking can mean job loss equals healthcare loss, housing loss, etc. Adding that in the USA, healthcare is an industry and an employment benefit. Americans aren't people, they are commodities. The new American dream is to live outside of America. When I lived in the US, I used to be proud that US workers are the most productive in the world. Now that I live across the pond in Europe, I can see the dark side propaganda element to that assertion. I think a lot of us, especially from Europe, don't truly realize just how awful employment protections are across the pond. We tend to assume that the US is a modern, developed nation, not too dissimilar from our own. And it comes as a rather unpleasant surprise when we discover that the US really isn't. Especially since many of us have been brought up on a diet of American TV series, which tend to glorify the American dream. TM. And conveniently don't mention what happens if you're not at the top of the pile. We're used to employers treating us like adults. And when they don't, we expect employment legislation to come to our aid. And more often than not, it does. Speaking personally, I'll openly admit I had no idea just how bad things were across the pond until I joined this sub. Nearly 3 years later, I'm still learning. It's because they literally can't believe their worst nightmares are our realities. It just doesn't compute that things that are illegal where they are constitute everyday practices in the US. But in the same vein, Americans have a hard time believing the truth behind hardships we consider to be human rights violations. It's all about perspective. Let me add that Americans are criminalized at a high rate, which leaves us conveniently trapped here to exploit, because once we're stained with a criminal record, so any other country that might be a better option just says thanks but no thanks. I'm an ex-American that moved out of that dystopian nightmare over 20 years ago. I see a lot of things from reputable journals, but it's the personal anecdotes that are the most surprising. I don't think anyone is really being dismissive. They just cannot believe it's as bad as you say. I honestly can't believe how much the US has gone downhill since I left. It's utterly shocking. The USA is not ranked number 1 or number 2 in quality of life. I think it is ranked number 14. We do not have any national healthcare system here. Private healthcare is extreme unaffordable, and women's access healthcare is controlled by the government in many ways, especially around reproduction. They are getting ready to ban birth control and IVF in many states. 2. I find many Europeans don't understand why Americans don't travel much. Well, it's not affordable and we get only 2 weeks vacation that we may have to use for something else. If another Republican takes office, there will be no more EPA, FDA. Department of Labor will be abolished. The Department of Education will be abolished. And most of the federal government gutted and destroyed. No more public education in America. No one will oversee or regulate businesses in any way, shape or form. The Canadian government is already preparing for an influx of immigration coming from the USA. Honestly, Because we constantly hear America is the greatest country in the world. And the president is the leader of the free world. News and Americans alike constantly shell on about America being great, and the greatest nation out there. We then hear stories about a lack of rights, a lack of freedom, and downright appalling working conditions that most third world countries have resolved a long time ago. America needs to make up its mind. Is it the greatest first world country? Or is it the worst? In all honesty, we can't believe it. How can a country as rich as America be struggling with such basic problems? How can the people be struggling on such a level without striking? How can America be a first world country when these are the problems it faces? People in third world countries have access to basic things that we don't, like free healthcare, free education, and paid maternity leave. I do not see it as dismissive. More shocked that the supposed world leader has such bad conditions and we tolerate them. I think if you live somewhere with human rights, the state of the US probably is extremely shocking. Because it is so f***ing bad, no one believes it. Propaganda is a powerful tool. Because we barely have any rights as workers. And without proof, nothing can be done if the limited rights we have are violated. There is no federal law that mandates we have breaks. Even meals. No federal law for holiday pay. Even federal holidays. No federal law for sick leave. No federal law that guarantees you can earn and use vacation pay. Source: https www.dal.gov/general/topic/work hours. State laws vary, but in the end we are at the mercy of our employers. It's either do what they say or be homeless and starve. All but 4 states, Florida, Georgia, Louisiana, and Rhode Island, have at-will employment exemptions, including public policy exemptions, covenants of good faith, and implied contract exceptions. The state of Montana only allows at-will employment during a 6-month probation period at the beginning of a worker's employment. Let's remember that the internet as we know it, use it now, has only existed since the first smart phone mass adoption in 20,092,012. Since then, the rest of the world has been able to talk to average Americans fairly regularly, allowing them to see beyond the Hollywood veneer we've been projecting starting in the early 1900s. In doing that, they've been shocked at how bad life really is here. Americans are very, very, very uneducated about how dysfunctional, racist, oligarchical, and downright mean our country is. We are the largest group our own propaganda is directed towards. We have a highly tailored education system designed to keep us in the dark, and due to poverty and our location we don't travel a lot and rarely go to other first world nations, meaning we don't get the opportunity to see ourselves from another's perspective. We've been okay with how things are here mostly because we didn't know it could be better. The internet is changing that. I have a lot of hope for the kids coming up. No paid parental leave, beyond expensive higher ed, expensive and restrictive healthcare, and still limited access. Right-wing fanatics fight against reproductive freedom, healthcare and parental freedoms. And a civilly liable rapist, 4 times indicted treasonous man, is the front runner of a major party for president. Oh, and guns are everywhere at all times. I miss anything? I've long said America is just a rich third world country. I think most comments like that come from a place of sympathy, rather than being dismissive. Because labor laws are generally so different outside the USA that it's shocking there are basically no protections.
If you enjoyed this video, please check out our playlists full of similar content. Epicaricast is like doom scrolling for your ears. Please like, share, and subscribe.